Well, joining me now is political journalist and great friend of the U.S. Report, John Fund. John, thanks so much for joining me again here on the U.S. Report. I want to go to Washington first here, where the Democrats continue to bury their heads in the sand when it comes to what was going on with former President Joe Biden. And there was a stunning scene when Democrats failed to show up. They boycotted a Senate Judiciary hearing on President Biden's autopen use and mental decline. Have a look at what happened.
I will note that few of my Democratic colleagues are here today. Thank you to Senator Welch from Vermont for being here, leaving us with no other option than to take the boycotting of this hearing as an admission of guilt for their role in this crisis. We must not turn away from the search for answers.
I'm sorry, John, they boycotted the hearing. Where are the norms of civil behavior here? They won't even show up. What are they afraid of?
Well, James, look, Biden had the autopen. He was signing thousands of commutations and pardons and other things by remote control, effectively, you having the pen do his work for him. So the Democrats are following in his stead. They've discovered auto attendance, where you attend simply by having an empty chair.
Yeah.
So it's all part of a piece. Government by remote control.
But, John, I mean, do you think that they're concerned that these hearings might actually uncover something, or that some of the Democrats might be called on and asked about, well, what were you doing all this? Didn't you know that the president was declining, and yet you all covered it up?
Well, I have to admit, I think their strategy was probably the best from a PR point of view. Notice how little coverage this hearing has gotten, even though it involved the president of the United States and one of the biggest scandals in the post-war history of America.
Unbelievable stuff, and I can't wait to hear more about what comes out of this. It's going to be keeping us occupied for years, I predict. But in further news from the classy Democrat Party files here, it seems that former CNN correspondent Jim Acosta apparently mocked President Donald Trump's deceased former wife, Ivana, when talking about the ongoing immigration raids across the country. Have a look at this.
Where are the ICE raids at the Trump properties?
Yes.
Can somebody call ICE on the Trump golf course in Virginia?
Yes,
You're telling me there's nobody in there that is undocumented or has some kind of squirreliness going on with their paperwork? Give me a break. Hey, how many immigrants has he married? He's got one buried at his golf course in New Jersey. Isn't she buried by the first hole or the second tee or something like that?
He's got one buried by the first hole at his golf course. I'm sorry. Couldn't these people have a bit more class?
Oh, his middle name has long been sophomoric. Look, when a CNN reporter as opinionated as Jim Acosta was basically shown the door at the network, I think he decided to reinvent himself. Unfortunately, his real forte is insult comic, and not a very good one. So because Stephen Colbert's and Jimmy Kimmel were filling the shoes of the hosts at the major networks, he's basically gone to podcasting and cable lowlife television to peddle his wares.
Unbelievable. What a decline. Hey, I want to talk about also some serious stuff here. The big, beautiful bill, the big Trump economic bill. We've been a bit distracted by all the events in the Middle East, John, with, fairly obvious reasons for that. However, there's also news that the Senate has unveiled their own version of the bill after it's been cleared by the House. Now, there's a lot of provisions around Medicaid and tax credits. Where is this going? Is the Trump administration going to wind up ultimately getting a win on this bill, or are the sort of government purists, the libertarian purists, going to wind up holding this up?
Well, I think the biggest danger is actually from rhino Republicans who want outrageous tax deductions for high-income people in their high-tax districts. They want extending these clean energy tax credits. They want to basically prop up hospitals with endless Medicaid subsidies that they don't deserve. So I think that's probably the bigger obstacle. This bill is going to pass. It's going to pass, and because it's a reconciliation bill, it doesn't address the real problem, which is the entitlement programs. The closest thing it does is, I think, reform Medicaid, which is horrible medicine, and make it a little better for patients and a little less expensive for taxpayers. So this bill will pass. It will be messy. You don't want to look at the sausage making. But in the end, the tax cuts are going to be extended. That will provide needed stability for the economy, and they will be permanent. And I think the stock market and job creators will respond appropriately.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess that's a bit of good news, John, but I still worry about that big deficit that's growing by $1 trillion every 180 days. So we'll have to wait to deal with that.